we're getting close to being over spring training. But the bottom line is it's leading to some conversations and talking points. And injuries are always going to be a part of that talking point at some point, and we're lucky that we've made it this far without talking about any major injury. And although this may not be major, it kind of seems like it's kind of trending that way. Elliot, you mentioned it a little bit ago. You're starting to get a little concerned about the injury updates on Spencer Steer, an injury that carrying over into spring from last season, that shoulder injury. That's the latest update for those watching on the YouTube side. Again, Spencer Steer having his throwing program delayed due to discomfort in his throwing shoulder. Obviously, Gordon Whitmire reports this in the Cincinnati Enquirer. How concerned are you about the discomfort in his throwing shoulder as we sit here heading into March?
Yeah, I'm very concerned. I'm very, very, very concerned. He's been phenomenal up until this point. I know there's people out there that discredit what he does. He's available. His number one thing is that he's available. He can play decent offensive baseball. Is his defense good? No, but they got him playing 9 positions, so he's not particularly good at any of those positions. They got him running around out there in left field. So that's where he's at. I think he's serviceable in that spot. I don't think he's good. I think he's serviceable. I don't remember too many instances last year where Spencer Steer's costing us games out in the outfield. I know he's not the best outfielder in the world, but come on. I mean, I think he's a solid baseball player. And if he's not going to be available this year, you're going to see it. You're going to feel it as you're watching this team because he's been such a reliable bat. He's been such a reliable piece in the outfield for the Reds and defensively in general. He's just a body that's out there and can occupy a spot. I know it's not great, but it occupies a spot. This has been an ongoing issue apparently since last season. Been dealing with this shoulder injury. I'm not going to go into the conspiracy that the training staff is hurting our players, but it does feel like if this is a lingering issue and it's happened since the season, I think that I wish that there could have been something that we could have done to help this, move in the right direction. And maybe they tried and it failed. I don't know, but it's a very frustrating thing to hear that this has been an ongoing issue for months and it hasn't been resolved. So as we sit here on, at the end of February, a couple weeks away from opening day, and one of our key players is still not really playing in the spring, yeah, I'm very concerned. And I don't think that the Reds are going to be, the worst team in the league without Spencer Steer. But I do think that 83 win mark I predict them to have this year, a lot of it is Spencer Steer. I know he's not Ellie De La Cruz, he's not Matt McClain, he's not Hunter Green, he's not all these guys that we have, all these superstars, but he's a reliable, consistent piece that you need to be good. And if he's not there, I'm very, very concerned at what the Reds' offense and defense looks like.
Spencer Steer is crucial to any kind of Reds success we're talking about having this year. And the best thing that he does is play. The greatest asset he has to this Reds team is being on the field as much as he is. And if we're already, fighting with shoulder injuries that have lingered for months and months and months, that's not a great place to be for a guy who hangs his hat on durability. It's very, very nerve-wracking to see this earlier for a guy, especially a guy like Steer. It's definitely not what you want, and obviously the concerns that have been raised year after year with the Reds training staff obviously come up here as well, but I also think it could be a case of season ends and you say, well, I got, so many months till spring training, I'm sure it'll get better, and then it just doesn't. So that could also be, at play too. I don't know who to place blame on, and I guess we'll wait till it's closer to opening day to see if we have to blame anyone at all. But if an injury from last baseball season lingers into opening day of this year and Spencer Steer can't play for whatever reason that is a huge indictment on the organization as a whole that they weren't able to find a way to remedy this during the offseason because Lord knows the Reds have had the longest possible offseason for as many years, as we can think of.
It's funny you say that because I do see people every time there's an injury. Man, the Reds, medical staff. I'm not willing to say it. What's that?
It feels like they've mishandled injuries. That's why there is the theory out there. The CES stuff last year was a joke. I don't know what exactly transpired there. David Bell kept saying post game that he's fine. He's almost back. He's almost ready. He's a couple weeks away. And then what happens? Right? He doesn't play. He doesn't play for the rest of the year. So I think that there's a lot of stuff that have transpired. The Jamier Candelario injury last year. There's a lot of stuff that's transpired that's been like, why are we doing it this way? Why are we saying things that we don't know, we don't have answers to? and that's where the criticism, the conspiracy comes from.
No, and that's fair. And, I think I would be curious. I kind of want to go through, as many teams as I can, social media, just reporters, and just see how many teams are battling with some of these weird ongoing injuries that just don't seem to get answers. Like, I always wonder, do we live in like just a red silo? We talk about how regional baseball is. Do we just live in our silo and think, man, we're the only teams that's going through this? Maybe it's common around the league or not, but it does seem odd that it's always something when it comes to not whether it's a mismanagement or miscommunication. Just something seems off as far as not everyone being on the same page as far as the reporting on something, or just the ability to obviously get these guys healthy and get them out on the field. It's kind of like the Sheldon Rankins thing a little bit throughout the Bengals season. We see this, in football from time to time, never really knowing what's going on. Maybe it's a Cincinnati thing. I don't know. But I do understand when fans kind of get a little fed up with it, because it's like, how many times are we going to talk about a team that has expectations when then we head into the most important month of the season, September? Let's say the Reds were actually in the mix, like truly in the mix, battling for a final wild card spot, or heaven forbid the damn division. And then they literally have to call up guys from AAA because they don't have one single healthy starter down the stretch. You could just say, well, that's bad luck. That happens over a course of a 162-game season. I hate to be that man. It's always us, but it does always seem like there is just some major injury that is constantly holding this team back. Is that common around the league, or is it just, are we snake bitten? I don't really know how to perceive that, but I do understand fans' frustrations at the end of the day.
Everyone gets hurt, and you see Mookie Betts go down for a couple months last year. You see Bryce Harper go down for a month last year. You see like big names, superstars. A lot of these teams suffer injuries throughout the course of an 162-game season that spans over 6 months. Like, that's going to happen. It's part of the game. My issue right now is that it seems like the Reds have had their best players go down with significant time missed over these last few years, and they don't have the roster. They don't have the payroll of the Phillies or the Dodgers. They don't have anybody to back up the guys that go down. That's the difference. There's no replacement of that talent.
Yeah, and the other thing is it feels like they aren't doing the most that they can to limit the amount of time those injuries take.
Yeah.
The CES thing last year is a perfect example of this. The two injuries we've heard so far in spring training this year, Andrew Abbott and Spencer Steer, both those guys were hurt last season. These are lingering things lasting all the way through the offseason. I don't know that that's the case with other teams. Maybe it is. Again, maybe it is, and we're just not nearly as dialed into the other 29 teams, and that's why we don't hear it. But it certainly feels like, if injuries happen to everyone, we certainly don't do the best job of mitigating how long those take to get back from.
Yeah, you brought up the Mookie Betts thing too, and I think the reason we feel injuries over here more in an anxious way than other teams, if Mookie Betts goes down for the damn Dodgers, they have 5, 6, 7 all-stars behind him to kind of help carry the load until he gets back. It's like, here we are freaking out over Spencer Steer, and that's no disrespect to Spencer Steer. I don't think he's not even close to a top 10 player by any means. But man, if we're told heading into March that he's going to be out for some significant time, that does feel like a gut punch. If Spencer Steer's a Dodger and they've come out and say Spencer Steer's going to be out for some time, the Dodgers are like, oh, well, get well soon, looking forward to getting you back, and they just keep on trucking. Reds fans, in the situation we're in here, it feels drastically different. Even for a role player like Spencer Steer, if he's down, that feels like a gut punch at the end of the day.
Yeah, you just don't have wiggle room.
I mean, I've said it multiple times in the show, but you set the franchise record most players used in back-to-back years. You start to get a little bit fed up with the fact that we just don't have guys that stay healthy. And whose fault is that? Like Jacob said, we don't know, and I'm not going to start throwing blame right now on February 28th. I'm just saying that if the Reds have any hope at all, you do not have the payroll, you do not have the budget, you do not have the depth to lose key guys. Whether or not you want to say Spencer Steer's a key guy, I would argue that given the fact that he plays every day in every position, he's one of the best players on the team, given just that. I don't think that you can afford to have guys go out and replace Spencer Steer, because then you can't have that guy go down. There's literally nobody to replace him after that. It's just an ongoing cycle of never-ending injuries here. And yeah, it does feel like it's more here. It does feel like it's more in Cincinnati over the past few years specifically. And I don't know what that is. I'll never understand what it is. I'm just hoping that this year is the year that everybody can give me enough. Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Brady Singer. I want 24, 25 starts out of all my starting pitchers. Andrew Abbott, Graham Ashcraft, Nick Martinez. I don't know what their roles specifically are going to be if they change it all this year, so I won't ask 25 starts out of them, but I want them to be available, right? Alexis Diaz can't go down with an injury. We need our closer. We have one closer. We need him to close.
And he has to pitch like a closer.
Correct. Like Jacob said it. I mean, there's zero wiggle room. None.
Right. Yeah, it's the tough part with our organization. We talk about the Dodgers, and even to an extent you can throw the Cubs in there, and then the Yankees, and they go sign a big free agency signing, and it doesn't work out. It's just well, let's go get someone else this year. We're talking about this year how important Jeimer Candelario is because we gave him $15 million a year last year. Yeah. And he has to live up to that contract because we can't get that money back. It's already spent, and we can't just go spend on top of it. It's a different life as a fan of a small market team. It's a different sport that you're rooting for, and you just don't have wiggle room. And like you said, regardless of what you think about, the output or the advanced metrics of Spencer Steer or what he does as a defender, the fact that in a perfect world he's in the lineup 162 times, that makes him one of the most important players on the Reds. We don't have outfield depth to not have Spencer Steer in left field. You have to have him out there. You have to have his bat in the lineup. And the fact that he's battling injuries like this early and already lingering through a bunch of months, that's maybe the worst place that we can be in right now in terms of a player with an injury, outside of Elly De La Cruz and the big guys.
And I'm gonna be honest, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound like Spencer Steer's improving at all. In fact, it sounds like it's not improving. It's halting any progress. So that's something that you're going to have to look forward to. You're going to have to look for to start this season because we don't know what we've got if we don't have Spencer Steer. So, again, the injury stuff, I don't want to complain too much about it yet. It's just Spencer Steer as of right now. But, these things snowball and you lose Spencer Steer, and God forbid you lose a guy like Elly De La Cruz because then there's really nothing. Then we've got absolutely nothing at all.
Yeah, I always feel like, and you're right, it doesn't sound good, even though it's very vague. But to me, vague is not good because if teams want to temper, you could say, well, they want to temper expectations and may not want to throw out a positive report, but there seemed like there was no positive update to this at all. It was almost like, hey, that was the same update that they gave us heading into spring. If you remember, when pitchers and catchers were reporting, when they were coming out, hey, Rhett Lauder is going to have a limited throwing program, as will, that was the update on him. And then the update on Spencer Steer coming in that they were going to take it slow with him. Do we have an update on Rhett Lauder, by the way? I haven't seen anything. I
haven't seen anything as of yesterday.
Guess that's a good thing. Has he pitched at all? I haven't paid attention to see if he's pitched in any of these, whether they're split squad scrimmages or spring training games or what. But
the last update I'm seeing is about 10 days ago. It says he's ramping up his throwing this week. So that would have been last week leading up to now. So no updates since then, at least that I can find.
All right, well, that's good. The thing for you guys I feel bad is, look, there is no guy I want to debate baseball with less than Nick Kirby because he just knows how to make you feel so small as a baseball fan. So, and the one argument you guys had for Spencer Steer is the fact that he's available. Man, if he's not available, that just totally you have no more bullets in that argument with him at the end of the day. So there's that.